Excellent. All right. Thank you very much. Hello, everybody. Thank you for joining Elizabeth and Jeff Vaudrey, owners of Tipple's Brews and Wines in Gainesville, Florida, for this week's Wine of the Week, the wonderful Pico Maccario Barbera. It's so fun. Barbera de Asti. I got that one down.
We're going to pretend that's how you pronounce it.
It's a beautiful Northwestern Italian red. I think everyone's going to enjoy it a whole lot and learn a bit about that wonderful location, which is some of the most prestigious wines in Italy. I think we'll learn a lot and enjoy it. So thank you for joining us. As we get ready now, let's go ahead and pour a glass. If you have not already done so, I've chilled mine a little bit, brought it down to right around 60 degrees. That was approximately 30 minutes in the fridge. I open the wine before I chill it to give it a chance to open at the same time as it chills, which is kind of nice. It's efficiency. There you go.
Thank you.
You are welcome.
So that like kind of splashiness that you're doing, so that's just more aerating.
Yes.
Yeah.
On purpose. As far as anyone knows. Give it a swirl and let's talk about, we'll take a look at the wine slide and talk about pairings before we dig in and have our initial thoughts on the scent and taste. All right, so here we have the Barbera de Alba. Barbera is the grape. Alba is the location within Italy. Food pairings: braised beef, pot roast, foie gras, grilled portobello marinated in balsamic, chocolate, and walnuts. So
the same pairings as last.
Same pairings as last week, because that, even though it was an Argentine red, it was created and vinified is the word in an Italian style. Now that one was a northeastern Italian style, but Italian nonetheless. So the pairings were just so similar. I thought it was just too much fun to just move it over, you know, or perhaps lazy. You can decide. All right. About our initial influence. This is 14, the sweet spot, kind of for a little maybe upper sweet spot of most reds.
Last week was 15.
Last week was 15. So yeah, 14 to 15 is right where you would be. This is 14 and a half. I guess it just nailed it. So if we could, let's let everyone chime in.
They can unmute themselves if they would like.
Okay, if you guys want to chime in about your initial impressions, otherwise I'll just continue talking about mine. But I'm very happy to hear what you guys are thinking as we dig into this wine. Oh, so good.
Raisins.
Oh, yeah.
Lots of raisins. Chocolate.
Right. Very nice.
I like this a lot.
Yeah.
There's a really nice dark fruit intensity on these.
Yes.
Dark fruit, yes.
Yeah, raisins 100%. And yeah, definitely some chocolate. It does a little bit remind me of last week's, where it kind of does. I think last week's I said it reminded me a lot more of like just amaretto, you know. But this does still have that kind of liqueur taste to it. I wouldn't go as far to call it just like, oh yeah, it's like amaretto, but it definitely has that sort of or maybe like port or something else like that. Where yeah, you get some of that.
Right. What's kind of fun about this wine is it is intensely dark, which we can all see that. You have a wonderful intensity of fruit character, but it's not all, as much as it is a richness, it's not all dark. It's more like a nice dark cherry, but there's, to me, almost like a strawberry note to it.
I was just going to say that.
Hey, excellent. Good call.
Dried strawberry.
I just get scared to say things like that.
Or I was gonna say balsamic, maybe. Could be because I'm eating literally some balsamic right now, but I was like,
right.
I was like, oh, I get like maybe that's sort of also what I get out of it, like or like some figs or something.
This is
Here's
fake.
why that makes total sense, Chris. So Barbera is a grape that is high in acidity. It's got a lot of dark fruit intensity, not a ton of tannins, which we'll get into that body structure in a minute, but a nice high intensity of acidity. So what we do, so when you get that, well, then if you have a high cherry fruitiness with acidity, that's also like balsamic vinegar. So that's why it makes total sense with that pairing / crossover. If you're eating some with it, it's totally going to go in that direction. That is one of the, and we'll talk about some of the characteristics of Barbera, but that makes a lot of sense. Barbera can be have a lot of rose quality to it for the aromatics. I would say, and this is also appropriate to style, this guy's to me this is an older vine version, so it's a little more intense. Whereas a lot of Barberas can be very much raspberry and roses, this guy to me is much more of a black cherry, dried strawberry, and violets. A little more purpley and a little more in depth on that guy, which is one of the things that I loved about this wine. So. For the tannins, it's too bad Kiwi's not here. So there's nice structure there, but it's pretty velvety. It's it's kind of nice and velvet. These wines can go highly acidic with no tannin feel at all. This one is a little more robust. This is a bit more robust on there, but that's kind of another thing that made me want this Barbera.
So if there were no tannins, it would taste weaker, lighter?
Probably lighter, and it just wouldn't have that grip across your palate as it's coming, because it is a sensation.
Yeah. I'm getting a little bit of grip, like you said, but I'm not getting bite.
It's going to be night and day from, say, the Obsidian Ridge that we drank together, that Northern Californian Cabernet Sauvignon. That was gripping, like, I think one of the descriptions I gave it was, it's like fighting going down your throat. Like, I won't. And this is just a velvet, luscious, delightful wine. Let's jump over to the slides. We'll talk a little bit more about Barbera, and it will play right into what we're tasting right now. So here we have Barbera, the third most popularly grown grape in Italy, and they have so many options to grow in Italy. That's pretty significant.
Because like all the terrain is so good for growing grapes, or
it's because the grape is so popular in the form of the attributes that it has.
No. You said they have so many options in Italy. So
yeah, it's part of it is, yes, they have a lot of different terroirs that can grow a lot of different grapes, but also they have so many indigenous Italian grapes to choose from. There are so many. It's very difficult when you're studying wine. Italy can be a bit of a chore. No offense, delicious wines, but there's a lot of grapes to choose from. And so there's, certain styles, certain grape choices that rise to the top.
So what are 1 and 2? You don't know.
Sangiovese.
Okay.
All right.
Definitely, probably number 1.
Okay.
And no, actually, I did not. I saw that it was top 3.
When you saw that, you should have known. I was going to ask who.
Well, yes, I should have known that. If only it was the only thing I was doing today. But fair enough question. I'm there. I guarantee you, Sangiovese is above it.
Okay.
All right. After that, could be Nebbiolo. Could be a white. Pinot Grigio makes total sense. So. Yeah, I'll come back to it.
That's your homework for next week.
Look, we'll cover the trinity of grapes from the Piedmont region, which is where we are this week. And when we come back, because we will be returning to Italy soon, I'll have the answer. How about that?
Sounds good.
High in color extraction, high in richness of fruit, a juicy wine because it has high acidity, low tannin, and lots of fruit character. But it has optimally a lot of other attributes going on, which we've been talking about. Some nice spiciness. I can go with a little anise quality. Chris mentioned that first, and he's totally right. Maybe a cedar, and then a floral quality, which can run from roses to violets. I think this wine tends toward violets.
Alex, I would agree.
It's funny because literally as I was pouring it, I was like, I could smell this wine more than any wine I think we've had. Like literally just as I was pouring it, I was like, this is going to be delicious. You could just smell that. But then I wonder if that's because of like the heavier floral notes and like our noses are just accustomed to picking that up.
It is a nice floral wine. There are wines that are really, I call them stingy on the nose, you know, where you get there and it's just like, I'm getting nothing out of this. This is not one of those wines.
No.
Yeah, I guess I have to go and smell some violets because I can't like think of what.
But as ours is warmed up, because we opened ours what?
7:15.
Yeah, and warmed up. Now I smell more roses.
Yeah,
Where
and
I
it
had
won't be
violets
without the
before.
roses. You're right, and I'm totally fine with that description as well. I think it makes total sense. Honestly, as mine's opening up more, I'm getting more strawberry than I was even
I
in the
was going to
beginning.
say I'm getting more strawberry, definitely. But to me, I mean, I feel like I smell roses, but maybe I'm just
No, look,
thinking I'm
no, there are
smelling
roses.
floral. So
No, they're totally roses in this. That's fine.
Okay.
Yeah, it's all good. So,
I was gonna say red cherry was what started to really come out for me. Over the last
Like a super dark red cherry.
and there are some less, kind of some entry-level casual drinking Barolos, which I actually have some in the store, and they're delicious too. And they're basically a bit more linear, but very tasty in that they're red cherry and roses.
okay.
It's kind of it, but that's very tasty, and it's a casual drinking wine. Nothing wrong with that.
That's the same grape as the Barbera.
Same grape as we're drinking tonight. Yeah.
Okay.
So, but this one happens to be old growth. It sees a little bit of oak.
Okay.
They don't all. A lot of them see very neutral oak. This one sees a little bit of more young oak. It has a little more oak effect on there. But also, anyway, we'll talk about this. So the grape structure on this one, Barbera tends to have a very intensely, deeply colored skin, but not necessarily a very thick skin. So you're not getting the tannins. And then it has the intermediate zone there with all the acid and sugars. Well, we're dealing with a significant amount of acid and sugar because we have excellent higher level amounts of alcohol. We're at 14.5, but it's still very fresh. And it's kind of a fun combination where everyone's saying, oh, raisins. And yet at the same time, we all taste, this is a tart wine.
Yeah.
This is a fresh tart wine. So it's a very fun combination of those two because a lot of times, let's go to last week's wine. That was the Appostamento method. So it was literally raisinated. And that one had that raisiny richness, dried fruit, without a lot of acidity. What kept it dry and making you want to come back for more was the tannin. So it had that tannic dryness, so it wouldn't become a cloying kind of a mess of a wine. In this case, not the tannins, it's the acidity. That it has so much acidity that it remains, you get that deep dark fruit, but there's an acidic tartness to keep it fresh and enjoyable sip after sip.
Can you age this?
Good questions on here.
Oh.
All right. So not really meant to be aged, which is a combination of factors. So things that allow wines to be aged, higher acidity, it has it.
That's why I asked.
Solidly higher levels of alcohol, it has it. Tannins,
No.
Nishkit, right? Does not have
some,
that.
but-
Yeah, some, and this one has more than a lot.
Okay.
So when we talk about aging Barbera, it's more about generalities. You're not going to get, this specific one. This guy can age better than most because it has more tannin than most. So it's got a bit more of that trinity of aspects that would allow it to do so.
7 years?
Yeah, 7 years. And they recommend usually up to 4 years in general for Barbera. So the fact that this guy could almost double that, and I would stand behind that. I would totally do it.
Okay.
I think makes sense. So, but not generally a wine for aging, and not even as much that they would taste terrible. It's that it's more This is a juicy, fruity, vivacious style of wine by Barbera in general.
Oh, okay.
And so that isn't really meant to be aged and mellowed.
That
It's
makes
meant to be
sense.
vivacious and young. So that's why. That's 50% of the reason why, is just the style and how it's utilized generally.
So you said before, like thin skin, not as many tannins. Is that true across the board for all grapes? Like if you were to bite into a grape and you notice it's a thick skin, then it definitely will have a bunch of tannins? Or is that just true for, like, it happens to be with this one?
I'm going to tell you, to the best of my knowledge, yes.
Okay.
Yeah,
The
you're going to
thicker
get
the
that
skin,
thick,
the more
robust
tannic.
skin. You're going
Okay.
to get more tannins out of it as it's crushed. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. Pinot has a thinner skin. So.
Next one.
Yes, please. All right. So, let's see. Wait a minute. Let's go back here. Barbera grape. One other thing, a couple things I wanted to cover before we moved on. So to me, this reminds me of a cross between Malbec and Pinot Noir. So some of the body of a Pinot Noir, not as much tannin, some strawberry notes, Pinot Noir, lighter body, and then, but the darkness and kind of the violets and the purples that you're seeing in some of what you're tasting, like a Malbec. So to me, it's kind of sitting with a little bit like a crossbreed between the two. It is not, but you know, it reminds me of
And
it.
to me, it's more what, like on the garnet side rather than the purpley side.
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah, I would. I think it's more garnet than purple. Listen, and we covered the aging. Thank you very much. So good. Now we can move on.
Don't touch my mouse.
Okay, you're in charge.
We're done with this one.
Yes, we're done with this. All right, so here we
Now
are.
you can touch the mouse.
All right, so we're in northern Italy. We're right here. So it's right about the center of the growing latitudes for wine in the world.
Yeah, a little bit north of center. There.
Just a little north of center, but pretty darn close. So Italian wine regions, we're dealing with the Piedmont region this time. So Piedmont is the larger region. And we've spent a lot of time over in Veneto. We even had a really nice Sicilian. Remember I called it the ultimate barbecue wine?
I remember
Yep.
that.
So we probably need to spend a little time in Tuscany. It's where Chianti's from. It's super important, but we'll get there.
Okay.
So tonight we're up in Piedmont and within, so here we go. I like this map. It's really easy to read. So once again, it's got Piedmont and then it's got all the grapes over here in Barbaresco, Barolo, Barbaresco, Barbera. There we go. Moscato. So within Piedmont, we're going into the Asti region. So Asti is, here we go. So within Piedmont, we're in Asti, right in the center of Piedmont. Many people will think of Asti, wait a minute, this isn't sparkling, right? Because Asti Spumante, right? You're right. But it's so much more. Yes, it's famous for sweet, sparkling white. Moscato is the grape, or Muscat, whichever way. But it is so much more than that. They grow wonderful Barbera here. There is a lot more going on in Asti than just sparkling sweet.
Yeah, because the minute you said Asti, I thought Asti Spumante.
Right.
Immediately.
And I honestly, at one point, at one point in my life, I thought Asti meant sparkling. I literally thought that's what's Asti. If you threw Asti on a wine, it meant it was sparkling.
It's just the region.
It's just the region. So, let's see here. So within this area, in Piedmont in general, you've got the trinity of reds, which are Barbera, Nebbiolo, and Dolcetto. About 10 months ago, we had a Dolcetto from this region. Dolcetto means the little sweet one. So that is the one that I really felt like made a lot of sense for the American palate. It was the easiest drinker, had the most fruit forward. It was still pretty velvety. The body was similar to this. Barbera, so it takes it up a notch. And then Nebbiolo is flat out a grippy, aggressive beast of a wine, which we haven't done Nebbiolo yet, so we will be. It's so good. Anyway, so covered the Dolcetto. So the Asti region is sandwiched right between the Mediterranean and the Alps, and it's affected by both. So you end up having the warming, kind of a warming sea breeze moving in from the Mediterranean, but then cooling breezes coming down from the Alps, and they crash into each other. So you have these warm, sunny days. You have very quickly cooling nights. And then in the morning, because they're mixing together, you have a long lingering fog that then burns off, and then you get to the bright sunny days. I really didn't realize how much I want to live in Piedmont. Growing season temperatures, right? These are the warmest 2 months of the year.
So I don't want to live in Piedmont, I'm guessing.
Oh no, you could.
Okay.
This is where we are meant to live. This is good for you and me.
We
all
like
right?
different climates. So.
So low humidity, mid 80s as the hottest time of year.
Okay.
Sunny and mid 80s, you could totally handle.
I could. Low
And
humidity.
they
I'm
go
gonna be in
in-
a sweatshirt.
They
but
go
yeah.
into the mid 60s as the lows during the summer.
Oh.
Right. And then in the winter, it's in the high mid 50s is the coldest.
Oh, that's great.
Right.
Yes.
And then the lows are in the upper 30s, like 37, 38. So
Mhm.
they're not even full freezes.
Yeah. Wow.
What a gorgeous place.
Okay.
All right. I'm on it.
Yeah.
Want to go.
Start making moves. We'll
That's
just
right.
go move there.
I don't know if any of those Italian,
The $1 houses.
the $1 houses are in this area,
Yeah.
but if they are, goodbye. Everybody.
No, that climate sounds beautiful.
I feel like if we all pooled our money, we could buy a getaway place in Italy and just take turns and or go party at the same time.
Right.
They're literally $1, so we could each put in like 5 cents.
Right.
and
Well, but
you
do
have to fix it up.
You do have to fix up those
Yeah.
places. So.
Yeah. I don't know if they're in this area though,
Right.
but yeah.
Let's see here. So, Asti,
Okay.
hilly,
Yeah.
hilly rolling. It's the rolling hills as the foothills as you're moving into the Alps.
Mhm.
So you've got the Mediterranean out there rolling in with some cloud cover or fogs. But I mean, look,
I mean, to me, I'm from Florida because I'm like, that's more than a hill to me. I mean,
yeah, but I think our perspective
Yeah.
is a lot more flat than most
Yeah.
people. But right, just absolutely stunning
it's
place.
gorgeous.
Right. Cool. Here we go. All right, so
There's the fog
here's
you were
another one.
talking
There's
about.
the fog.
Hmm.
Differently.
And you can see these beautiful little communities that are
The
interspersed in there, and there's just
Mhm.
those constant, and these are more rolling hills.
Yeah.
That looks,
Steep.
less steep than the other
Mhm.
one. So, all right, moving on. So, Pico Maccario. The winery was founded in 1997 by brothers Pico in Vitaliano. Pico and Vitaliano Maccario. So, but it's named after Pico.
Ah.
I'm like, hey, wait a minute here. What's going on with that?
Mhm. He was the older brother.
He is the brother that's involved 100% in the winemaking, from growth to winemaking. Vitaliano is the business side.
Okay.
So, but if you look at the colors and some of these images here, which we'll do closer up, they definitely have a vibrant personality. I kind of want to
Look at
get
the giant snails.
right. It's so
Yeah.
cool. Actually, that's come across a lot better than I thought it did. I have close-ups as we move forward. So it began in 1997. But before that, they were growing grapes that they sold as a family for 40
Okay.
years. So they have
Oh,
some
wow.
very old vines, hence what we're enjoying tonight.
Mhm.
Let's see here. The estate is 173 acres, contiguous, which is unusual in this area.
Right.
Most people have to kind of grab pieces parts.
Sure.
Yeah, you've got the snails. Here's the soil is, hey, you guys are going to freak out. You never heard this before. High clay mineral content, low sand, lots of pebbles coming off of the Alps and that kind of a thing. So fast drying soil with high mineral content that allows them to not have rot and give them nice character to their grapes. So I tell you, Vintus vinifera, the genus name for the wine grapes, It likes what it likes. Next one, please.
Okay.
Just their barrel room. I mean, it's gorgeous.
Beautiful.
Yeah.
Mhm.
And next one. They actually have their wooden boxes for cases for their higher end ones, all come in different colors, which they
That's
do.
very
It's like
cool.
a pencil box is their inspiration. So they have hundreds of pencils standing up, marking the boundaries of their winery
Oh,
and their
really?
vineyards. Yes. Colored pencils, all 22 different colors
That's very
of
cool.
giant colored pencil
Yeah.
marking the different areas around the vineyard.
I like that. That's so fun. It's very playful.
So on the bottle, nobody has asked me yet. We can jump back to us.
Okay.
I've mentioned Pico Maccario, the name of the winery. Barbera d'Asti. I've named everything except for Tre Roveri.
Right.
What does Tre Roveri mean? It means 3 oaks.
3 oaks.
3 oaks. So it's named after 3 oak trees, which they don't bother to say anything about on their website. So honestly, I would love to show you a picture of 3 dramatic oak trees from their estate. They didn't do that. I'm sorry. I can't tell you why it's called 3 oaks.
Huh. Maybe it has something to do with the cooperage.
It may. It may. I'm sorry I can't give you more information. I really looked on that one. That was not an oversight. Only one oversight per session.
Okay.
That's right. So, all right. Let's talk a little bit more, because the next step is going to be looking at the ratings. And we, as we saw going in, there are no ratings on this wine. Small production. They've not put it up for ratings.
So it's just us rating it.
This was rated. I thought it was delicious. All right. That was why we're drinking it.
We get to rate it. The Tipple's tasting.
No, I'm just saying,
Yeah.
obviously I chose it without ratings to direct me. So
on the shelf talkers, you can put TT and then do an average of what we, Tipple's tasting.
Tipple's tasting.
That's our
there
average.
You go. They do that on some fairly big websites.
Maybe we'll do that.
They call it TP, tasting panel.
Okay.
All right.
So
All right, you tipplers.
do you want them to go ahead and put their tasting in the chat box? Their rating?
No,
or-
I guess we should
Okay.
follow the rules, even though I know everyone's been here before. Let's jump back over and go to the rating slide. If you would.
Well, wait, does anybody have any comments before we jump over to the rating slide to define what the ratings are? Comments, questions?
Right. I went through all the region and all that stuff. Any questions? Any more things that maybe I didn't look up?
I have a question, Jack. As far as like, what do you think, and this is personal because I want to get back to like the generic Italian like genre of like, what do you think that this is a typical Italian wine when people think of an Italian red?
I would say it has a lot of the attributes common to many Italian reds, in that it is a red with high acidity. So that nice tart freshness is very common, not exclusive. I mean, we have Amarone looking me in the face, but whether you're here or running down into Tuscany with Sangiovese, those guys have a ton of acidity and that kind of thing. So a nice leaner. The other thing with a lot of Italian reds is they will provide a lot of flavor in a wine that you can see through. So there are many Italian reds that you'll look at it and it'll look something like a Pinot Noir, and yet it will knock you off. You're like, oh my gosh. I mean, when, we'll do a little more high-end wines. We're going to do that like once a third, once a quarter of the year, something like that. And if you have a Barolo or a Brunello for that matter, you can see right through them like a Pinot, and it is not that experience at all. So they are deceiving by the standards of other areas of the world. So that is another thing that kind of.
Well, and I feel like this is a darker one, but it's definitely not opaque completely.
Right. Yeah, absolutely. Even though this one is a little more intense on the coloring, you can still see through it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
For sure.
And now you wouldn't think this is Pinot, but.
No.
Yeah.
I feel like it was just way more floral than most Italian reds. Like I hear Italian red, And I genuinely enjoyed this, but it was definitely different than I expected.
Interesting. I would go the exact opposite on that one, in that I think one of the most consistent attributes in Italian wine, region to region, tends to be floral notes.
But is that what attributes to like the more tannin? Like to me, there's like generally more tannins, like that bigness in an Italian wine that you're talking about of like, you're not, maybe because it's unexpected because it is more see-through, that it's
Right.
bigger.
I think it's more I think it's the grapes themselves, and combined with the Italian style of winemaking. Because I don't know, to me, as I drink my way through Italy, I get so much more floral presence, where in a lot of areas, especially New World, you end up with this barrel dominance. And you're getting, oh, it's vanilla. And, you know, if you're getting vanilla toasty as your first thing, well, you're smelling barrel. You're not smelling what the grape is giving you as the dominant thing. But the Italians don't do that. And then when you do get some barrel, a lot of times I call it a dusty barrel. It's not like that ripe, overly vanilla. It's just a very kind of dusty, toasty, subtle thing, which is allowing the grape to shine through. So for me, that is something else that is kind of quintessentially usually Italian. So I lots of floral notes. Tannins, you're all over the gambit in Italy. Like you go from some of the most tannic wines I've ever had in my life to very luscious, low tannin wines. So that one, I don't think I could say there's a thing that I would,
Specifically.
right. But lots of floral notes. And then a big thing of it looks lighter than it is very common.
Okay.
Yeah, where it just comes, it's much more robust than you visually would think. So to me, that's kind of what stands out from Italy.
You know, I really agree with that, because I thought Julie's initial question really stood out to me, because I was like, this isn't, I wouldn't drink this and immediately go, oh, it's an Italian wine, even though I think individually all these little characteristics I would pull and go like, oh yeah, you know, it sort of tastes like this that I would expect from Italian wine, or that I would expect out of an Italian wine. I was mentioning to Robin, I was like, I almost feel like it's like some sort of like almost like a South American red blend or something else like that just pulls these characteristics but isn't explicitly that. Which made, I think, this stand out so much, is because I normally think of Italian wines as, you can kind of see through it. They're these kind of like bright red, very floral stuff like that. I don't usually get those like giant, like, you know, big reds all the time. Like sometimes you definitely do, but like a Chianti or something else like that's not gonna do that, generally speaking.
I did point out though that I feel like we do not drink a lot of single varietal Italian reds specifically. Like I feel like we're often drinking Italian wines that are just Tuscan or like things like that, and it's like, I don't know what grapes are in this, but it tastes good. So I think that this was interesting, drinking just an actual like Barbera and getting to taste that and kind of associating the flavor just with that grape.
Thank you. Yeah, that's awesome. And I agree. That's kind of one of the fun things I liked about this is like, oh, now we're tasting Barbera. I brought a red blend from Piedmont into the store this week. You guys drank it, if I remember correctly. You guys brought one home. I don't know if you had it yet.
The Rosso?
But it's the one you guys have you've had it. You know, you already like that wine. Yeah. So there's a Rosso that I brought in. It's a Piedmont Rosso, which is literally, I talked about the trinity of grapes, which is, you know, Barbera, Nebbiolo, and Dolcetto. It's a blend of those three grapes. So it's really kind of cool. There it is.
Yeah.
It's absolutely delicious. I love that wine. Crazy reasonably priced.
Oh, yeah.
And it's fantastic, that's fun to put them all together. But I like, you know, pulling them apart where you can say, okay, this is what came from there.
Right.
So now we've had Dolcetto and Barbera, and now we'll have a Nebbiolo next. And I think it's just, anyway, it's a lot of fun.
Mhm.
And then maybe we'll put it all together with a blend, something like that.
Sounds
But,
good.
all right, so let's take a look at that last slide. We'll take a look. We'll cover once again what the wine score explanations, really mean. So we have, a good, solid, well-made wine, and you're talking about the 80s to 80 to mid 80s. Very good wine with special qualities, pushing up there just shy of 90, and outstanding wine of superior character and style, a 90 to 94. And then a classic great wine for the ages 95 and above.
So I will say something with this. I think it's going to be difficult for me because I think this is the only Barbera I've had.
Mhm.
So I'm comparing it just to what I like or not, rather than like specifically comparing it to what a Barbera is supposed to taste like or something.
And I think that's a good point, because we do talk about how wine ratings are not, there is nothing set in stone about how to rate them.
Mhm.
What I tend to think that most people do is they take their wide range of tasting. A, is this a delicious wine?
Mhm.
B, is it well made?
Mhm.
C, how does it taste compared to its brethren in the
Right,
region? Right. In which you were saying you don't have
Mhm.
as much of a depth of knowledge in that,
Yeah.
which is okay.
Yeah. And I'd say for me, I'm like, okay, do I like it? Does it taste complex? Like, does it taste like it has nuances to it, or it's just, gives you what it gives you?
Mhm.
And those are the things that, for something that I'm not familiar with, that's what I would be judging it on. If we're talking like California Cab, that's different because I have a lot of experience
Sure.
in California Cabs.
Right.
But something like this, I'm just kind of going, okay, are there nuances for flavor, and did I like it?
Right. And does it match up to some of what I shared
Right.
that it should taste like?
Right. Right.
Or could taste like, and
Mhm.
which hopefully I did a good enough job to create an impression. So. But once again, and on the plus side, if you guess the wrong number, nobody's going to yell at you.
The wrong
There is
number?
no wrong number. There's no wrong number.
If it doesn't match to Jeff, it's the wrong
That's right.
number,
That's right.
evidently.
Oh, good luck, everybody. I hope you don't get blocked from next week's tasting.
Okay, yeah. So if you want to throw a score in the chat box, and if there are two of you and you disagree, like David and Rachel often disagree with one another,
Which is so
on
much
their-
fun.
Yeah,
Awesome.
on their ratings. That's oops, didn't mean to do that.
I'm gonna see Linda
There we
and
go.
Brenda come to blows.
Yeah. Okay, they're saying 89.90.
89.90.
Mm-hmm.
Cool. All right.
Brian and Julie agreed for the first time in the history of ever in 89.
All right.
Okay.
90-91. All right. From
Oh,
Harriet.
92 from Rachel.
All right.
We'll see what David says.
I'm holding my breath.
Yeah.
I drink wine when I hold my breath.
89.90. Brenda said 90, Linda said 89.
Okay.
87 to 89, but one we barely know what we're talking about. This is a Larkin Tuckers, and two of the three of us are tasting compromise this week.
I like that. That description is fantastic.
Yeah.
Thank you.
And then Jerry says leaning at 92 as well. Well, Jerry Harriet. Okay,
Harriet.
now I'm looking
Oh,
at
yeah.
the camera. I was just looking at the chat box. Okay, love this wine.
Excellent. Wow.
Mhm.
And I will say there's
And then
Paul and Linda,
yeah,
91, 92. So you guys are right there.
So we're going from, I think, a low of 87 and a high of 92.
Mhm.
Although really on average, I think it's about a 90.
It's about a 90
Yeah.
as an
Mhm.
average. I would totally think I want to see what Elizabeth's going to say before I say what I'm going to say.
I really like it. I think I would have said about a 90. Mm-hmm.
I can
Yeah.
go 90 all day long.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
I do really like it. The problem is that if I'm just judging it off what I like, I mean, like I like to feel the bite of tannins, and but I know that's not what this grape is
Right.
supposed
It's
to
not
do.
what they do. Right.
So yeah, so it's hard for me when I'm not feeling like the big bite to go as high. So maybe it is actually a better representation of that, and I just because it's not supposed to be like that.
Mhm.
So, but I think I'm just a little influenced by my taste of what I like.
Mhm.
Yeah, and I was gonna say I'm a little bit influenced by just the cover of the book.
Mhm.
Like I thought I was gonna get like tannins and stuff. I don't know the grape, obviously, but so I was looking at this going, oh, this smells amazing, and then I took a sip and I was like, this is very smooth. This is
Mhm.
not what I expected, judging a book by its cover. And I'm like, this is a sheep in wolf's clothing. I just,
Yeah.
Right.
Well, and I guess that's what Italians will do to us a lot then, as far as the color goes.
It will fool you. Yes,
Okay.
it will, because it will go the complete opposite direction.
Okay.
Yeah, there are some Italian wines that we will have
Mm-hmm.
that will look much lighter than this. You'll see
Mhm.
right through it,
Mm-hmm.
and then it will grab onto your palate like it's
Okay.
angry.
So you
So-
have to let people know,
Yeah.
so that they're not shocked like Paul was. And then Consuelo said 91.
Oh, nice.
So, yeah.
There we go.
Do you
I'm
want-
glad overall. So obviously everyone seemed to like it.
Yeah.
I'm glad you did. This guy is, because of the combination of older vines
Mhm.
and a little newer oak, to me, a friendlier Barbera crossover
Mhm.
to the United States. So that was one of the things that really attracted me to it, is there's that kind of richness and lushness to it.
I will be right back, but you can
Okay.
reveal the next.
All right.
Yeah,
So,
I totally agree that it is. I do think it is very, very friendly, despite the fact that it does have all these sort of unusual things happening around it.
Mhm.
It doesn't prohibit it from being extremely friendly and easy drinking for a lot of people. Another reason why that we had was like that too, where it was like, oh, this is a kind of weird or complex red, but I feel like I could still bring this over someplace and just be like, hey man, this just tastes awesome.
It was, I think
it was the Homestead.
it was the
red one.
Homestead wine that Mike recommended, where we were
The red
talking,
blend.
where we were talking about how we could easily just bring that over and it would be a crowd pleasing red
Okay.
wine.
Yeah.
Right. Yeah, I like that call. And that's kind of, I thought, well, this is a Barbera it's got a little more richness and robustness going on. And I thought it was a more American friendly version of it, which is kind of what got me excited about it. And I'm glad you guys liked it. I think it kind of worked out.
Yeah.
But, because I had this just a week ago, and I just thought, oh yeah, that'd be so much fun to get back over there, and we'll have a Barbera that that really has something, a little extra kick to it. So awesome. So let us take a look at what we're going to be drinking next. And boom, there we go. Next week, we are traveling to the exotic California. All right, we're going to Napa Valley to one of my favorite winemakers. We're going to Gergich Zinfandel. So this guy, 90 plus points year after year, 93, 92, 91. It doesn't seem to really go below that. I was looking at it, and we really haven't had a lot of Zinfandel as a group. And I wanted it to be something that would be really good without going overboard on the over extracted richness. I think honestly, Zinfandel needs to be careful as a group and not have a Merlot moment, because there are so many Zins that have gotten a bit ridiculous. It's a great grape, and this is a beautiful version. So I figured I'd kick us up. We're gonna do a Napa Zin, and I hope you guys all join us next week, and we'll have some fun with me as we drink this. Pairings, by the way, I don't know if you guys noticed on this. So pizza, red sauce pasta dishes, beef stir fry. Jake at the store swears by sushi with Zinfandel. He swears by it.
We want to know what kind of sushi.
I think it's sashimi, that kind of a thing. I think a lot of, I would assume a lot of raw tuna and salmon with it. He swears by it. And I've had several people come in and say, yep, he was totally right. It worked wonderfully. It seems like an overkill, but you know what? honestly, Jake's earned some faith. He knows good wines also. So so that is what we will be enjoying next week.
You're just absolving yourself from all blame. Was it? Well, Jake says sushi.
Jake said, "Look,
so
I have
like,
right, yeah. You know, honestly, because it is such an odd pairing proposal, I have not done it yet, and I can't swear by it. But it shows that I have trust in Jake that I even put it on the list. So
You need some heavy fish for that, some heavy fish.
yeah,
No shrimp.
yeah, definitely. I can only imagine. Like I'm grabbing tuna and salmon because it's all I can imagine working. Because with a really well balanced Zin, I could definitely see like a Pan Asian salmon working. Because as long as you don't get to the intensely heavy Zinfandels, which would almost trounce anything except for maybe Boston Butt, which Boston Butt was on that list. I just ran out of room. But anyway, so I figured it would be more fun to talk about something a little contrarian as a possibility. So.
Yeah.
All right. So
Any last
statements
or
before
comments?
we toast?
Should we wait to do the food truck review or?
Yes, please.
Oh, we'll do that. Yes.
Ready?
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
All right.
Like this
Thanks for
one.
coming.
Thank you for coming.
All right. Fantastic.